What up, Star Seeds? My name is Sarah, founder of Crystal Nutrition, and today we are diving deep and talking all things ancestral healing. Before we get started, I am going to be talking about what ancestral healing is, what it isn't, and my take on it as a spiritual, intuitive, and energy healer. Then we're going to get a little funky with it. We're going to talk about ancestral healing in terms of surrogacy, adoptions and caregivers, past life, individual soul templates, a Q&A section as well at the end by the community. So I posted a little bit about this on my Instagram. If you follow me on Instagram, if you saw my stories last week, then you already have a heads up about this video because I was so curious about these topics and I really wanted to channel and find out about them. And at the end of my little spiel on my stories, I left a little comment box if anybody had any questions that they wanted answered in this video. And if I didn't know the answer to the questions, I was going to channel it and find out. So I've picked a couple of your questions. Some really good questions came in, and I will be answering some of them at the end of this video. We're going to talk first and foremost, before we get into all of the soul contract things, all of the adoption things, etc., etc., we're just going to talk about ancestral healing. So you will notice that I look down sometimes, or I might be reading off these papers. I channel my writing when I ask questions to my guides and my higher self. So a lot of information came through, and a lot of the times I am going to be reading right off the paper because I want to make sure that the message gets delivered to you in a way that you can understand and in a way that aligns for you. So let's back the truck up and start at the beginning of ancestral healing. What is it? Well, my belief or my take on it is that we carry in our DNA on an energetic cellular level energy templates from previous generations in our family. So from the mother's side and from the father's side. And there can be positive things, there can be negative things, but we carry them through the lines of our family. Now, thinking of this in terms of pregnancy. So when we look at a mother that is pregnant with a daughter, there's actual images of this on the internet. I find this fascinating. So while she's pregnant with the daughter is not only carrying her eggs, but also the grandmother's eggs. So there's a lot of passing down of the cells. So the womb space is a holding space for cellular memory. And men have this as well too in the sacral area, but specifically for women and fertility and in the sacral chakra area or the womb space, we carry these templates and these cellular family imprints. So what is an imprint? So these are any old beliefs or patterns or anything that can get passed down from the generations. And it can go as far back as like 3, 4, 5 generations, even farther back still. Just to give you an example, there's so much to, it's so mind-blowing. And this is one of the more complex topics that I have tackled on this channel. So I'm really excited to bring this information through and to talk to you all about it because it's a very exciting topic and it's super, super interesting. I think so anyways. Yeah, so an example I like to use if we're talking about ancestral healing is a money wounding. So you could have someone, and this has happened to me with clients that I've had, somebody in the present day that is making good money, the finances are there, but they struggle with a fear of the abundance or a fear of losing the abundance. They hold on to their money, they're scared they're going to lose it, etc., etc. This could be an example of ancestral healing. But before we go there, I just want to say and preface this with, when we have things come up or certain quirks or patterns, it's not always an ancestral thing. It's not always a family energy template. It's not always that deep. It could be as simple as a psychological thing if the soul grew up in a family that was experiencing poverty or they didn't have a lot of money and they learned from their parents to hold on to money and to be scared to lose money. So it could be as simple as an experience in the current lifetime that has sort of formed their consciousness around this. But if we have a situation where someone has such a fear of abundance and there's nothing in the present lifetime that would indicate why they might have that, we want to zoom out as an energy healer, as an intuitive, and look at the whole picture, the whole scope of the soul and the soul consciousness to see where this energy line is coming from. Is it coming from a family line? Is it a past life thing that's coming in for them? We'll touch on the past life stuff a little bit later in the video. But we are multidimensional beings. So there could be multiple reasons why we're having an experience or why we have wounding in a particular area. Now, when is it necessary to do ancestral healing? If the pattern, the belief, the energy line is interfering with the journey of the consciousness. So the present person in their incarnation that's in front of you, if it's interfering with them and their soul's path and their journey and what they're here to do and what they're here to learn, then it needs to be cleared. I want to talk about what ancestral healing is not. Ancestral healing is not a scapegoat or to be used as an excuse to turn around and blame your great grandmother for all of your problems. That is not what ancestral healing is. Ancestral healing is a way to access deeper levels of consciousness, deeper codes of energy templates that we could be carrying, and it's an opportunity to clear them. And when we clear and we do ancestral healing and we clear the family line, what we are effectively doing as well is clearing it for the generations to come. Now, I've talked about this before. It doesn't really matter. The universe doesn't really care, not care, but doesn't make any difference to the universe whether you have physical, biological children in this lifetime or you don't. If you have a sibling who has children, or somebody else in the family, or a cousin, or whatever that has children, if somebody else is bringing new generations into the family, even if it's not you, that's totally fine. You are still energetically sowing the seeds and clearing the template for the next generation, regardless of who it comes from. So it's a really high honor and it's really powerful stuff to do this work and to do ancestral clearing. And my take on ancestral healing is pretty much everything that I just discussed. And I do feel like it's really necessary to do. And everybody has different levels of healing and different family stuff. And there's different ways to do ancestral healing. We're going to get into that later as well. We're going to talk about how to do it. You don't necessarily have to go to an energy healer to do that. It's good. It's a good idea. It always helps. I mean, I'm a little bit biased with that. I think it's a great idea for everyone to go to an energy healer. But there are other ways that we can do that. Okay. So I think I've covered everything in terms of ancestral healing, clearing the template. And then, the other thing I wanted to add is the reason why sometimes we can have these templates or we've carried them down is because they're encoded in the family energy and the family line, because at one point that energy or that type of line of consciousness or frequency was needed for protection or for survival. So let's go to that energy of the finances or the poverty, having to scrape by, holding on to everything that you have. And that generation, wherever that pattern or energy started or occurred, that was crucial to that generation and their survival. So it gets passed down through the family line because they are trying to keep the future generation safe. Now, this is not necessarily, it's not necessarily a conscious thing. This is a subconscious thing. So your great grandparents are not necessarily like consciously cursing you or trying to put all this stuff on you because they want you to be safe. It's just a pattern that was learned in the energy consciousness at the time of incarnation that ensured survival. So it gets passed down to the next generation because it's an attempt and it's a want to preserve the family line and to ensure safety, or survival. So when we clear ancestral healing, there's always a deep, deep, deep energy of gratitude where we are thanking that energy consciousness, wherever it came from, mother's, father's side, however far back, we thank it for wanting to shield us or protect us, but we communicate with it that we are alive in a different generation, a different time period, and that consciousness is no longer necessary for our survival, and it's actually impeding or interfering with our current soul's journey. So we clear it from the body, we release it, we thank it, and we let it go. So that is my take on ancestral healing and how that works. Now we're going to go ahead, get started on the topics. For my water bottle. And also, everything that we talk about in this video is that which I have channeled and that which I believe. Take it with a grain of salt, take what resonates, leave the rest. Everybody has a different perspective or way to look at energy healing or the spiritual world. So this is my little corner of the internet, and I am sharing what came through, and I'm so honored to do so. But if some of this doesn't resonate, that's totally fine. It's not the channel for you. Okay, so let's get into this. We're going to talk about soul contracts first and foremost. So the premise of everything that we're going to talk about is soul contracts are real and past lives are real. So that is like the basis of what we are approaching, the perspective that we're approaching this topic with. So when I talk about soul contracts, I firmly believe that before we incarnate here, I believe in past lives. I believe before we incarnate here, we create soul blueprints with our team of spirit guides, and we choose our parents, we choose our kids, we choose our partners, we choose any of the significant relationships that we're going to have are in our soul blueprint. There's a little bit of flexibility in soul blueprints because we have free will when we come here. Absolutely. But there are certain things that are charted to happen to us, events for an opportunity of growth and evolution. And there's certain energies or other souls that we're charted to have connections with to reflect things back to us about ourselves that we need to learn, opportunities to balance karma, etc., etc. So if we're operating from this level of consciousness of the soul contracts and the past lives, we're going to get right into the soul contracts. So when knowing all of this stuff, believing in all of this stuff, it had me wondering, like, what about people are adopted or surrogates? Like, what happens with that, with the soul contracts? So I wrote down soul contracts. We choose our parents in all significant relationships in this lifetime. This includes adoptive parents and step-parents. All parties have decided that we will have interactions with them and be linked to them in this lifetime. This serves as an opportunity for growth, evolution, expansion of all souls involved. Sometimes it's karmic, it's an opportunity to balance the karma, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes we've charted it for soul growth, and there might not be any karma or past life stuff that needs to get resolved. It was just a good opportunity, things lined up, and we agreed to have this connection in this lifetime. Soul groups tend to incarnate together, taking turns playing different roles, almost like actors in a theater. I've recently been reading this book on Edgar Cayce, and it is all about reincarnation and past life. And there's a really good past lives. There's a really good analogy about an actor in the theater. So when we come here and we have these incarnations, and we all take different turns playing different roles, right? Like being the good guy or the bad guy, different levels of consciousness. It's almost like when we're in here in this body and whatever your name is in this lifetime, it's like a role or an actor that you're playing. And you're not necessarily conscious as an actor of all the other roles or backstories that you've ever played. You're focused on the present and the role that you're in right now. But when the actor steps off the stage, he goes off the stage and he's back to being himself, he remembers all of his other roles that he's played, and he has an understanding of all of the different lives that he's lived and how that's helped to evolve him, or roles that he's played. So I thought that was a really good analogy of our incarnations, and when we cross over and we reconnect with our higher selves, it is our higher self that remembers all of these roles that we've played. But when we actually come here, we're just focused on the one role or the one incarnation. Okay, so we've covered soul contracts. We're going to get into surrogates now, because I was curious. I was like, okay, so that's the other thing. So with ancestral healing, as well, when a soul is being carried in the womb, they are very, very energetically connected to their parents, and specifically the mother. So they're aware of the energy of the mother, the fears of the mother, the thoughts of the mother. Like, they're just very in tune with the mom. So that can also energetically imprint on them as well while they're in the womb space. So so that being said, I was curious about surrogates, because I was like, okay, like, if somebody is carrying a baby, is that baby absorbing the energy template of the surrogate, and then also the parents that are waiting for them on the other, like, once they're born, or what? And the reason this whole thing started too is I was curious about these topics, because I was wondering if someone was adopted or didn't know their birth parents, and they start on the spiritual journey and they start on the energy healing, do they have to do double duty when it comes to ancestral healing? Do they have to clear their biological mother and father side, even if they didn't really know them or there's no relationship with them? And then do they also have to clear the adoptive parents' mother and father side? And what about, like, step parents, like, all that stuff? So that's how this whole video kind of came about. And I felt really called to sit down, channel, and make a detailed video about this, because I felt like they were really good questions. Okay, so let's go back to surrogates. So when I opened my channel and I asked about surrogates, this is what came through. A unique soul contract where a soul agrees to offer their physical vessel to house and grow another soul. This contract is purely physical, and there's little to no energy template absorption of the soul who is in utero. There are soul contracts between the parents and the soul that is coming in. Energetically, this soul is connected or belongs to the parents. Not really, they don't own it, but there's that connection there, or the adoptive family, and it carries their energy template, not the energy template of the surrogate family. So it's separate. They don't absorb anything from this. It's all just for the family that they're going to be going to. It is a house for the soul, and once the soul is born and able to go to their parents, the contract dissolves, is complete, and there are no lingering ties or energies. And then I thought this was really interesting. There are beings on the other side that help to make this a smooth transition energetically. When the umbilical cord is cut physically, these beings also help to cut an energetic umbilical cord that helps to dissolve this completed soul contract. This is their job or department over there meaning on the other side, the spiritual realm. The soul that's coming in is actually very energetically connected to both parents, or one, because sometimes it could be a single parent with a surrogate and someone who really wants to have kids, right? So keeping in mind that when I say parents, it could also just be one parent. Despite not being physically inside one of them, and is in tune with their energies, thoughts, feelings, just like a soul is connected to birth parent energies and the thoughts, feelings, vibrations of their mother while in the womb. So it's the same. So you have the surrogate over here that's pregnant with the soul. The soul, they're saying, is just as connected with the adoptive parents or parents that are here as they would be if the actual birth mother was, or their actual mom was pregnant with them. It's just it's just a different way for the energy to be, but the connection is the same. Spirit guides of both the surrogate and the baby play a role in energy protection or boundaries for both. There is a special guide for surrogates, which I thought was interesting, a spirit guide. Now, I wrote down Nefertiti, which is, I believe, an Egyptian a goddess or the wife of a pharaoh. I can't really remember, but but I put a question mark around that because I wasn't entirely sure. Or like a goddess of fertility. There is like a guide or a being, and it is female. It is a very strong female energy that is a guide that comes and helps to assist surrogates. So it's a very high vibrational soul mission for someone. And this is someone who's walking the path of surrogate and taking it seriously and honoring their work and taking care of their body while they're housing this spirit. So the people that are doing that, they're very much in service. So the bottom line for the surrogacy stuff, if a soul is meant to incarnate, they will incarnate. It's not so important how they get here, but that they get here. Surrogates are regarded very highly in the spirit world. They are seen as being of service to the collective by offering their vessels to house and grow souls that want to come in and bringing them in for the parents that want them and otherwise, for whatever reason, might not be able to physically have them themselves. A beautiful gift for the universe. So they are actually like these beautiful beings that are very much in service of carrying and housing and growing these souls, bringing them into this earth so that they can be with the parents that they're charted to be with. All right. Surrogacy. Done. I thought that was really interesting. Whew. Next, we're going to get into adoption and ancestral healing. So if someone is adopted, like I said before, or not raised by their birth parents, do they have to do ancestral healing for both the adoptive and the biological family energy templates? So the answer that I got was, it depends. Generally, yes, to a degree, but some have more work to do than others. And that's like anything in life or any area of energy healing. Some people need more focus on the chakras. Some people, there might be more of a stronger focus at that moment in time on past life stuff. Sometimes it's ancestral, and it can change throughout the years too. So it's sort of wherever the person is at in their journey. And depending on the level of energy that's there or templates that are there, or how low the vibration is or how much stuff is going on, that can affect how much needs to get cleared as well. So I wrote, if the family of origin has a lot of wounding or heavy ancestral energy or patterns, or patterns could be patterns of addiction as well, or gambling, etc., it almost always indicates that ancestral healing can be beneficial. The soul absorbs energy templates from both the mother and the father while in the womb. Even if they're put up for adoption right after birth, or if at some point during childhood their birth parents are no longer in the picture for whatever reason, there is still an ancestral energy template imprint. An additional ancestral energy template from the adoptive family or caregivers exists as well. Think of each family as having their own vibration, like a bubble of energy or frequency. This bubble of energy can get imprinted or absorbed by a new soul who is now a part of the family. It does not matter if the soul is not biologically related to the family. It is energetically seen and recognized as now being a part of the family, and that consciousness can take on the ancestral energy template. So then I wrote something else, which I thought was really interesting as well. If the soul has chosen and is here to learn radical self-acceptance, and part of their journey is to work through and navigate feelings of rejection from one or both of the birth parents, then it's possible that they may never feel a part of or connected to their adoptive family because they are focused on the energy or have to work through that energy from the birth family. This is all fine and part of the journey of their consciousness in this lifetime. And then I wrote, so important to note, carrying an ancestral template of a family energy, whether adoptive or biological, has nothing to do with how connected you are, how close you are, or how much you get along with your family, whether it's biological or adopted. The energy template flows down the generations all the same. And I think a lot of it varies on what we are here to do, what we're here to learn. Um, there's no one size fits all blanket template for this stuff for any sort of energy healing modality, I feel. And there are sometimes agreements too. So going back to when we were talking about surrogacy, like there's a soul contract between the surrogate and the soul that they're carrying that's purely physical. So they have agreed to carry the baby, but then once the baby is born, it dissolves and they go to the parents. They're like, remember I said that there are exceptions to everything. So when we look at adoption, sometimes if a child, like somebody gives birth to a child, and then for whatever reason, they're not able to take care of them, or whatever the reason might be, and they end up getting adopted by somebody else, or like there can be sometimes a soul contract where there was an agreement that somebody would be the vessel or carry the soul, but that once they gave birth, somebody else is going to raise them. Sometimes that can be in the soul contracts as well for whatever reason. So there could be instances as well where someone doesn't really, they never knew their birth parents, but they feel so loved and so connected to their adoptive family. And I think we all know or have heard of people that it's like that's their mom or that's their dad, that's their mom and dad, even though they're not biological. That love, that connection is still there. So sometimes again it's also leveled and multidimensional, and you add past lives to it and it becomes like a whole like other thing. But there are exceptions, and there are times where the contract has been fulfilled by the birth mother by giving birth, and the soul is very loved and content and happy with the adoptive family and sees them as their own, and doesn't really have any ties or any real connection with the birth mother or father or anything like that. So in cases like that, they're probably not going to be carrying much of an ancestral template from the birth parents. They're going to be more integrated and connected with the template and the energies of their current adoptive family, because energetically that's their family. So not every situation ever where something like that happens, you have to clear both. But again, it depends on what you're here to learn, what the challenges are, and it's all varied and nuanced. So I thought that was interesting as well. Okay, so now we're going to talk about how to do ancestral clearing. Again, probably a little bit biased here, but the first thing I wrote down is going to an energy healer that knows how to do it, and to set your intention for ancestral clearing on both the mother and father side of biological or adoptive parents, if applicable. So first thing you can do is go to an energy healer and tell them you want to do ancestral clearing, and ask them to help hold the space so that your higher self ancestors can come through and the clearing of that template can occur. Now, okay. So the second thing that you can do is become self-aware and conscious, whether by self-reflecting, meditating, therapy, of any patterns or beliefs that you hold that might not have been yours to begin with. So if you have certain hangups about things, or certain beliefs, or nothing ever good happens to us, or we have such bad luck, or anytime we get any kind of fortune, it gets taken away from us, like any underlying beliefs like that, um becoming aware of them and Then you can make a conscious decision to shift into new habits or choices that change your trajectory into a higher vibrational experience. Now, this takes time. Anytime we're trying to shift or change, we always teeter and totter between the old and the new. And then we can perceive as when we step into that old or teeter into the old, sometimes our human minds can perceive this as, oh, I messed up again, or oh, I'm never going to change, or oh, it's not happening. But it's part of the ebb and flow of your consciousness and of change here in this reality, in this dimension. So when we're making conscious choices and shifting, sometimes we might get pulled back into the old, but then we also dance with the new. And it's learning how to straddle that line and then getting more comfortable with that vibration so that you start to lean and segue more into the new. I hope you like my little interpretive dance there. Just to show you the different sides. I don't know. I'm a visual person, so I think sometimes I animate a little bit to help with the visuals. Okay, so that's how you can do ancestral clearing. So I wrote this down too, which I thought was interesting. So remember at the beginning or before I said, you don't necessarily have to go to an energy healer. I think it's a fantastic idea. And if you do healing yourself or you're a reader yourself, and yes, we can heal ourselves and we can do a lot of stuff on our own and with our own guides and consciousness, but every healer needs a healer, I truly believe, and everybody has blind spots. So it's always good to go to someone, even if you have done the work yourself, mother wound, father wound, all that stuff, ancestral healing. It's always good to go to somebody else because they can help clean you up in your peripherals or the stuff that you can't see. And it's a good way to grow and evolve your consciousness because none of us know everything, and there could be something that you're missing that maybe another healer could see and help hold space for you to clear. Okay, so it is possible to heal or clear ancestral templates or patterns simply by choosing differently and doing inner work. So you don't have to go to an energy healer if you don't want to. So an example of this that I wrote down is a pattern of women in a family choosing abusive or alcoholic partners that don't treat them well. So there's a pattern there of being with that sort of vibration. A new generation in this family realizes and recognizes this pattern and makes a conscious choice to choose a different partner later in life that is not abusive or addicted to any substances. This in and of itself, this decision, this shift, this making a choice to have a different partner, a different relational experience in a higher dimension of frequency is clearing the template because you've recognized, you've done some inner work, maybe some therapy, some healing, and you've changed your vibration and you've chosen differently. So that vibration, even though that was encoded in your DNA maybe and like had some ancestral templates there of choosing a partner like that or being attracted to that sort of vibration, you've done the inner work, you've shifted, you've met somebody with another vibration and you decide to go out with them or give them a chance. You're no longer vibrating at that same frequency that you once were. And maybe unconsciously, a lot of this stuff is unconscious that we're talking about, right? Not everyone's walking around consciously like, oh, like my grandmother this or this has happened in my past. Like we just start to become aware of this as we begin to awaken and go on this healing journey. But anyways, so that choice and choosing a different frequency, a different relational experience based on another vibration means that you're no longer attracted to another frequency, and it actually will repel, and you actually will not meet anybody else in terms of romantic partners on that level because the energies will just repel. But if there's something in you that's calling in that experience, and again, remember, it doesn't have to be ancestral, like this could be a past life thing for you individually, but if it is, either way, once we shift and we choose differently, that sends a message to the universe, and that also helps to clear the template. So very, very possible to do it yourself as well. Okay, so now, this is like, when I was writing this video, channeling the information for this video, I was like, damn, like we are really getting into some funky, detailed stuff. So I hope you're still with me because I find this stuff absolutely mind-blowing. Okay, so now we're going to talk about past life stuff and individual templates. All right, taking a deep breath. We're going in. This is what I'm going to be discussing and reading to you guys. Okay, so we're going to keep working with the example of that family template of women choosing partners that don't treat them well for whatever reason. So, like I mentioned or touched on before, we are multi-dimensional beings of consciousness. So this could be a family energy pattern, and at the same time, this could be a pattern that the consciousness has over many lifetimes of choosing partners that don't treat them well. So you could be in a family where maybe that's not even a pattern, but you yourself have experienced in your lifetime choosing partners that are not really aligned for you or for your highest good, or you could just like be with someone who's treating you better, basically. In the present lifetime, they choose, this is interesting. So in the present lifetime, they could choose to incarnate into a family with this existing pattern or template, so that the opportunity can present itself for the soul to grow, expand, and evolve their consciousness by learning, growing, healing, choosing a different partner. So sometimes it is a past life thing. It's a pattern the soul has had for many lifetimes. So they incarnate into a family with this pre-existing pattern, and then it comes up for almost like a double whammy, like it's in the energy template, but it's also their own wounding to look at lifetime after lifetime, so that the consciousness gets to a point where they have to meet, the consciousness has to meet itself, reflect, do the healing if they choose, and evolve if they so choose as well. Remember, free will. We always have a choice. Okay, but if we choose the same thing over and over again and it's not serving us, we will live out the same experience over and over again until we learn the lesson and complete the karma. So we are never doomed by any of these ancestral patterns. It's important to note that they are actually very much in service to us and our own personal evolution. And we wouldn't have chosen to incarnate to a family that has this template or be affected by this template if it didn't serve us in a higher way. Sometimes these patterns are karmic, past life, sometimes ancestral, family energy template, and sometimes it's both of these things. Whatever the origin, it is an opportunity for soul learning and soul growth. And I wrote, you are not doomed to repeat a family pattern or situation no more than you are doomed to repeat a pattern from other lifetimes. Each lifetime represents an opportunity to shift, change, and do things differently. It is a very human thing to perceive ourselves as stuck in these ways. The choice is always there to grow or stay the same, which is basically what I just said. So that's really cool. So ancestral healing is a beautiful thing. Keep in mind that while there can be patterns, beliefs that do not serve our highest good, there are positive, beautiful things that can also be in family energy templates, right? Like it's not always like, oh, my family and ancestral healing and negative, negative, negative. There are a lot of beautiful, beautiful patterns and talents and genealogy that can get passed through family lines as well. And the soul can also have certain talents from other past lifetimes, but it can also come through a family line. So it's all very, very fascinating stuff. Energy. So what's an example of like a positive family template? Energies, frequencies such as resilience, resourcefulness, patterns of kindness, generosity, all aspects of the ancestral energy templates serve our highest good. So keeping that in mind as well. It doesn't always necessarily have to be this hard, dense, heavy thing to navigate. There's a lot of beauty and lessons and wisdom from our ancestors. And keeping in mind too that our ancestors are here to help us and to guide us, and they want what is best for us and to help protect us. So always remembering that nobody is out to get you or curse you, or your family is not doomed. There's just certain things that could have happened in different timelines and different time periods that have affected the energies, and certain patterns or habits have been created out of that to help protect the family line, to preserve, or to survive. So just keeping that in mind, that it's always an intention of keeping you safe. But if it's interfering with your path, your consciousness, it's not serving you, then it's time to lovingly clear it from the body. Okay, so that is everything. The last thing that we're going to tackle are the questions from viewers. So the first question that I got, which I thought was a great question, is in terms of ancestral clearing, how do you know when it's occurred or cleared? Okay, sorry, just making sure we're recording. Can you imagine? Okay, so how do you know when it's done? How do you know if you've cleared it or if you have stuff left to clear? Excellent question. So I channeled this, and what I got was by breathing into it, connecting with your center point, your higher self, asking either your guides, your higher self, or whoever it is you connect with, asking if all clearing, ancestral clearing, is complete, and then intuitively tapping into what you feel around this answer. It can also intuitively and energetically feel like you are lighter or something's lifted from your field, or it's just going to feel complete. Like you're just going to feel like there's just this blank slate energy. If there's still a little bit left to do, you might feel a little bit of a pull in your solar plexus or in your heart, or a little bit of a ping, or just like a little bit, you'll sense some more energies around your field as well. So it's very much an intuitive thing. But again, another great way to know is going to an energy healer that you trust and working on this stuff and asking them as well. But a really good way is to breathe into it and ask about it, and you'll get that feeling when something is complete, or like there's no other stone to turn about this topic. You'll just have this feeling of completeness and of lightness as well. Okay, so the last and second question that was asked is, do only you notice, or do other ancestors? So once you've done the clearing or you're doing the clearing, is it just you who's aware that it's happening, or are your ancestors also aware that it's happening? So this is another amazing question. So this is what I wrote about this question. And this is what I know to be true from my own personal work and my own ancestral healing, but also holding space for others, other people's ancestral healing too. So it's actually both. So both you and the ancestors. Most ancestors are willing to step forward and participate in the healing. They help you to heal, and this helps to heal them, and they learn through you via this work. So in a case where an ancestral energy does not want to participate, for whatever reason, it doesn't resonate with them, they're not into the, like, there could be so many different reasons, that's fine. They don't have to. What happens here is that the angels come in to help with that portion of the healing. So it's almost like a door opens and all these beautiful angels will rush in, and they help to untangle and clear the template in that way. But when I do ancestral healing with people, I actually see or sense the ancestral energy consciousnesses coming into the room. So they are just as involved with the healing as you are and your higher self is. So it's definitely a group effort or a collaborative effort. Okay, so that is everything. If you have made it this far, if you've watched this whole video, thank you so much for being here. Please like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends who might be interested in this information. I hope that this information finds you well. It is a long weekend here in Canada where I am from. So if you're Canadian, I hope you have a wonderful long weekend. And if you're not, or if you watch this video at a later time, that's awesome too. Thank you for being here. Thank you for learning and growing alongside me. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Namaste. Ciao.